Hello, friends. Welcome to this week's Black Book COVID-19 Weekly Market Update Report. Black Book is more than just a book, and I'm Paul Machine, your host, where common sense and data come together. So now we're going to talk about the dam and the perfect storm. As we go through this week's results, I want you to keep in mind what the head of the Fed prior to the crash in 2008 kept telling the world. Ben Bernanke told the U.S. and the world prior to the crash, he insisted that the markets are fine. We're doing great in spite of what the data tells us. And the media supported the messaging. We all know what happened in 2008. This is not a doom and gloom message. Rather, it is an insight for incredible opportunities. March 2021, dealers are reporting the high volumes and highest grosses ever, and auctions have been selling out. Transportation is moving along swimmingly, except one thing. There is a noticeable drop in available inventory. In Q4 of 2020, 43% of total loan originations were attributed to prime consumers and 20% to the super prime borrower, an increase from 2019, according to the data from Experian's Q4 2020 State of the Automotive Finance Market Report. Link is attached. On the other end of the spectrum, subprime and deep subprime borrowers reduced their share of originations, dipping to 16% and 2% respectively. So go ahead, grab a pen and paper, and let's chat about how we can be ready for when the dam releases. So this past week, we did not set another record, but the market is still experiencing week-over-week increases that are in record-breaking territory. The tax season, price-friendly segments of the subcompact and compact cars, as well as crossovers, saw valuation increases pushing over the 2% mark. So where are the alternative channels to source these units? As we stated earlier, they're in limited supply. Another major development that we are seeing is the wholesale market is seeing a substantial increase in prices that dealers are willing to pay for higher mileage units, especially in the 0 to 2 year old category. Because of that development, Black Book started updating our mileage sensitivity curves on a weekly basis and instead of the typical monthly cadence that we have. So the law of supply and demand. So when supply is low and demand is high, prices go up. So now let's discuss sourcing. So all 9 car segments had another week of gains exceeding 1%, with compact and subcompacts exceeding 2%. It is expected for this segment to increase this time of the year, but not by this amount. This same week in 2019 had an increase of 0.53%. So why the increase? We will discuss this later. All 13 truck segments had gains, with 10 of them exceeding 1%. This is the second week in a row of weekly gains, increasing greater than 2 points for the subcompact crossover segment. So why the increase? We will discuss this later. So despite the OEMs doing their best to prioritize full-size truck production, new inventory continues to be limited, which continues to put pressure on the used market. Full-size trucks had another large week of increase, 1.5%. So how to develop new sourcing channels to reduce acquisition costs and preserve margin potential in today's market? There are 3 lanes a dealer owns with 0 bidding competition. Those are the service lane, the front lot, and online. Last week I shared, appraise 100% of every vehicle in service and pay an incentive to employees who buy. A dealer friend of mine shared this story with me last weekend. His service advisor buys an average of 20 units a month in the lane and was paid a buy fee to do so. He started selling cars part-time to his service customers he bought vehicles from. He is averaging 15 units a month part-time. Could this be a new model? Do you have a service advisor who has the drive and entrepreneurial spirit? You should look into it. A large fleet transportation provider recently sold thousands of higher mileage, edgier units at an incredible lift in price and used that to purchase some 0 to 2 year olds to backfill. One of the largest publicly traded Midwest used car retailers, their CEO has a vision statement. He says, "We are a 39-year-old startup company, encouraging entrepreneurship and rewarding for successful ideas. My friend is here now considering to connect with local lenders and credit unions for forbearance and possible accommodation partnerships." Another successful startup is also enhancing their solution to include a feature to alert both the lender and the consumer that is now that now is the optimal time to sell their vehicle. They will be able to source that unit to participating dealer groups. So what I'm hearing from my dealer buddies and from my SaaS partners, e-tailers, and people in the repo industry, there's an increase in voluntary repossessions. Could it be, as I said, that these consumers are making conscious decisions to let one of their two vehicles go because they want to keep their homes? They are letting those vehicles go into voluntary repossession because they did not know they have other options available to them. If you are the business that helps them, you will have customers for life. More on this later. So this graph shows our retail listings weekly price index for the 2 to 6 year old vehicles. Please download the report to see the 0 to 2 year old vehicles and learn how that category is performing. In April, retail prices picked up speed as demand accelerated and fueled by stimulus payments, tax season, and shortages of new inventory. The purple line within the red box represents 2 million VINs out of the millions that we track daily from new car and used car dealership websites, which we get a lot of intelligence within our retail market insights data set. With stimulus checks and tax returns hitting bank accounts, consumers are using that money as down payments. And it's one of the reasons why we saw an increase in subprime sales in March. Here's a quote from the Mortgage Bankers Association. Their latest forbearance and call volume survey revealed that the total number of loans now in forbearance is 4.66% as of April 4th, 2021. According to the MBA's estimate, 2.3 million homeowners are in forbearance plans, and that's by Adam DeSantis. So what percent of these customers trade in a higher payment vehicle for a lower payment subcompact or compact vehicle? Remember, there's an increase in that category. Last week, we discussed how would a dealer reduce acquisition costs and take advantage of this price lift. Using the cost of transportation saved, the savings from not having to pay buy and sell fees, plus figuring out what the carrying cost times the number of days it takes from the lane to get to your lot that you don't have to spend and incur. And use that money to pay more for private party sales, service lane buys, and frontline appraisals. I also would create a We Buy Cars portal, buy cars. Connect with me for referrals to Black Book partners who can help you or for the data that you need to create the proprietary tools. So what the mortgage forbearance plugging the dam looks like. So between March and April, 1.2 million potential mortgages either roll off or extensions are granted. And last week we learned 3 million homes in forbearance, average 1.88 vehicles per home. There's a potential of 5.4 million private party sales. Someone needs to go get it. Almost 32% of homeowners in forbearance extensions have now exceeded the 12-month mark. In terms of performance, more than 88% of homeowners who have exited into deferral plans, modifications, or repayment plans were current on their loans at the end of March, compared to 92% of all homeowners. Mike Francantoni, MBA's Senior Vice President and Chief Economist, quoted, "The share of mortgage loans in forbearance decreases to 4.66%. That's by the Mortgage Bankers Association again. So what happens when a mortgage or auto loan or lease roll off? Remember, the smart auto lenders also mirror the same programs used for mortgages. There's a reinstatement plan, there's a repayment plan, and there is a mortgage modification plan. SaaS companies and dealers have an incredible opportunity to service this hidden market. Every voluntary repossession is a lost customer for 7 to 10 years, and these are not standard subprime customers. The model I'm suggesting is similar to a short payoff or a substitution of collateral. Again, please reach out to me for referrals or for the data you need to develop your own proprietary solution. The links that I quoted are attached. I will start off with a few quotes. COVID-19 caused some disruptions in the market that defied ongoing trends that we had seen, says Melinda Zabritsky, experienced Senior Director of Automotive Financial Solutions. Perhaps one of the most unexpected trends was that delinquencies didn't rise significantly during the pandemic, though we know that a variety of accommodation programs, along with the stimulus packages, likely helped keep them down. Remember that. In case of the auto debt, however, there was no clear guidance from the federal government. As a result, consumers in need of financial relief had to find it on their own by way of refinancing, selling their car, or taking other action. Some had the option of negotiating with lenders, many of which announced the willingness to work with borrowers in need at the onset of the pandemic. While it's unclear how many lenders made special repayment arrangements for borrowers financially impacted by the pandemic, it is clear whatever actions they took did not change the growth pattern of auto debt. So what should a dealer do? Promote that you will buy their car without purchase or servicing from you. Promote that to provide guidance on options to sell or trade their vehicle with the lender's support. Think of how a substitution of collateral works and apply that here. Provide education on how to reduce the likelihood of a voluntary or involuntary repossession. Offer a way that provides complete privacy and protects a consumer's dignity. You do that and help them, you will earn a customer for life. Let's take a look at the high demand and low supply scenario and how this helps us. We spent the last two slides looking at the mortgage forbearance and the credit economy, and the slides before that, the available inventory in today's market. This is an indicator of the current new car sales that we have had in years past. We're taking this data and looking forward on the estimated wholesale vehicle supply. So with retail and fleet sales down in 2020 and in 2021, used return volume will be limited in the years to come. Short-term and used returns, rental sales were down about 50% in 2020. Again, that'll impact us beginning 2021 and 2022. Midterm used returns, lease sales were down about 20% in 2020. I urge you to seriously consider developing your 3 lanes and to develop the relationships with your local lenders and your credit unions. Let's look after each other, and in the long run, a rising tide raises all ships. I'm Paul Machine. I'm with Black Book. My number is 864-238-1234, and my email is paul.machine@blackbook.com. I look forward to hearing from you. Have a great afternoon.